Hey, what's up guys? So I wanted to do an alternate setup video for the XP-4105, and this is for the people who may already have this printer but have been using the ink that came with it, or if you're having trouble getting into the firmware update mode to install the Chipless Firmware. Now I'm going to be using the XP-4105 again. I wasn't able to find one at the store, but I found one on Walmart.com pretty cheap, and it was delivered to me in a few days. So first I'm going to set up the XP-4105 for regular everyday printing. I'm going to follow the start here guide and initialize the printer using the cartridges that came with it. After the initialization, I'll go ahead and do the calibration. And after the calibration, I'll install the drivers and do a few color test prints and dial in my color settings. Now at this point the printer is pretty much set up. I can use it for printing documents with text and images, but since we're going to be using this for sublimation, we're going to go ahead and install the Chipless firmware so that we can use the refill cartridges with the sublimation ink. So I'm going to make sure that any antiviruses or firewalls are temporarily disabled. We're going to go to inkchip.net and download the firmware and the activation files. Download and extract the firmware, and I'll run it. Then I'll go to my activation program and I'll run it. And once the machine restarts, the printer will be chipless and I can install the chipless cartridges. Now I cover all the chipless firmware setup steps in more detail on my other XP-4105 video, and I'll put a link in the description to that video. And also don't forget to enter the coupon code GORILLA at the checkout for an additional 10% off your order. I'll go to the ink status page and select the option to replace the cartridges. I'll fill and prime my refill cartridges and place them into the printer, making sure that the vent plugs are removed. And after the printer initialization, I'll make sure to do a few head cleans and a nozzle check. Then I'll do a few purge files to make sure all the dye ink is out of the print head and the sublimation ink is flowing. Now this process can be frustrating, but be patient and don't give up. For example, this printer did not want to give a clear nozzle check, so I had to help the process along by using the syringe to push ink through the print head. Now once I got a good nozzle check, I'll put in my sublimation ink settings and get a sublimation project started. Now I just got into Pickleball, so I'm going to try to customize a paddle. I'll start by taking the paddle apart, and then I'm going to scan the paddle so I get a template of what I want. And I'm going to be using a Caesar glitter HTV and subbing on top of that. So I'll put this in the Silhouette Studio and get a cut on the glitter. I'll press that onto the paddle. Then I'll print out my design. And I'll press that onto the paddle. And then I'll reassemble the paddle, regrip it, and add a ball retriever. Now I'm happy at the way this paddle turned out, and now I have yet another XP-4105 that I can use for sublimation. If you liked the video, consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you could, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for checking out the video. Until next time, good luck and good night.